Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Admiral Markets. My name is Chris. Thanks for joining us this live webinar here, taking a look at technical analysis and looking at the Forex charts. Perhaps we can take a look at gold and silver as well. They made some big movements the last few days, so that could be worth it. And maybe the DAX, but otherwise, we're going to take a look at technicals, specifically Camarilla this time, the Camarilla indicator. I'll explain what that is in just a second. First of all, though, this webinar is intended for a global audience and may not be suitable for everyone. To find out more information about that and other conditions and details, visit admiralmarketsglobal.com, select your country of residence, and contact an appropriate entity. Also, trading for exchange and global financial markets is considered high risk and may not be suitable for all traders and investors. Therefore, please seek the advice of an independent financial advisor for more information on that. This webinar is for educational and informational purposes only. And by continuing watching this webinar, you agree with this disclaimer. Alrighty. Good. Good morning, Bob. Good to see you. And Caitlin and Beverly and Jen, all of you. Good to see you here. We're going to take a look at how to use the Camarilla. If you're new to Camarilla webinar, perhaps raise your hand or drop a note in the chat. Perhaps it's a bit easier. I could be a bit more detailed oriented on the, what it is and the basics, basically. Otherwise, I will assume that you've seen it before. And of course, as you all know, the Camarilla is a great tool for intraday trading. It shows, it's basically a pivot point indicator that shows key levels throughout the day. Now, when looking at the euro dollar, oh, this is the dollar CAD. Let me move over to look at the euro dollar. But before we actually do that, let me get the risk disclaimer here. Not the risk disclaimer, I mean the Forex calendar. All right, go to admiralmarkets.com and you can click on analytics, and there are a lot of good stuff. Good material available, like wave analysis and technical analysis. I don't think there's anything major this week as far as I remember. We can take a look. Well, let me get back to this when it's ready. We'll take a look in a few seconds. The euro dollar 1 hour chart, you can see price has reached 108.20. This is an important level. Just looking from a relatively blank chart, we can see that this is a weekly bottom, basically, right here, a weekly support level. So that is a very interesting level because is it going to bounce or break? For the moment, I would think a bounce. But if it does post basically a strong daily candle close below this support line, then in that case, we might see a break, and who knows, this could be the end of this correction, and perhaps something like this, for instance, and that could be the start of the downtrend. Now, why downtrend? Because it's not visible on the daily chart. On the weekly chart, we can see clearly how much momentum there was to the downside, and that this was a correction. And when 08 breaks, we could start falling down to parity like that. So it is an important level, I think, to keep in mind. Now, I wouldn't say, of course, that 105, 104.50 here is not important. Yes, it is. That would be the next level. All right, so from that point of view, interesting potential here. I would certainly not be surprised if we get at least a hook back to retest this top and this broken trend line before we see a follow through. If not, maybe even a bigger rally, who knows? Because as I said, there's always that chance, although now it's starting to become a bit less likely, but still that chance that price could go up to the 38.2 fib. So this is just plain analysis without the Camarilla. And when we zoom into lower time frames, we'll be adding the Camarilla for intraday zones and levels. All right, let's see. Today we had Aussie meeting minutes. Let's see, we should have had them already, I guess, or we still have them. That's strange. Let me refresh this otherwise. we had them, sorry. Today, you see not that much indeed. Very light schedule. Let me look to the end of the week. All right, so back to this daily chart. So a bit of a bounce, would not be surprised. Let's take a look at the Camarilla now. Yeah, you mean this point. That has to do with wave analysis in the sense that this is marked as a wave 2, and this is a wave 1, and this is probably wave 3, and this is a wave 4. So from that point of view, that's why I took this top and this bottom. That's the reason. But I don't think there's anything wrong with necessarily with taking the top, of course. But if you do wave analysis, then that would be the alternative. So wave, no, sorry, 30-minute chart. Let's see. From this point of view, we're making some kind of like channel to the downside like this. And a break of that channel, well, it depends how you draw it, but anyhow, roughly like this. And this. Maybe like that, just a bit better. So we're making this channel to the downside, and you can see the price when using the moving average, when looking at the moving average, it stays below this 21 band basically, and when it pops above it, it's a retracement for more downside, like for instance here and here and here and here. So that particular atmosphere or that vibe has been going on for a while to the downside. We definitely have divergence between these bottoms here. When analyzing this oscillator, you can see that the lows are higher on the oscillator, but the prices are lower lows. So there's plenty of divergence, enough for price to make a rally off of that 108. So from that point of view, it does make sense for a bounce here. The L3 was just barely missed right here. That could have justified a long at 108.06, missed at 108.11. Still could justify a long when it gets there, perhaps. Now, of course, this would be a counter trend reversal kind of idea and setup, because so far we've been pushing lower. But considering the, I would say, pretty heavy support, the weekly level, a lot of divergence on lower time frames, then the L3 could be a trigger to take an entry with a stop loss basically below the L4. Where's the L4? 107.88, 89. So, it could be at 87 or maybe even a bit lower, like 81. All right. A spacious stop loss could even go below 107. Let's say 107.55-ish. Right, that's already a bit bigger, but that would give a lot of space for one more, perhaps even one more intraday drop before rise. But if it does make this intraday drop, then it's not so pleasant to stay in it. So I think a tighter stop loss does make more sense. I mean, if it does break through this 108, it could still rebound off of it a bit, but I would expect follow through to the downside after that. If it bounces somewhere in here, we could see maybe some rally up to the H5, which would be the target, the main target, at 108.85-ish. Now the alternative is, of course, a breakout to the upside if price pushes through this resistance. So let me make it a bit more clear. All right, now the purple is basically a 144 EMA close and a 169 EMA close. I only left the 144 on. So you can see that as soon as price breaks kind of above the H3, it's breaking above the 144 EMA and above this resistance trend line. So that would be the breakout potential here to the H5 above H3. One way of trading it would be a direct market order right here, but I'm not a big fan of that. That's okay, but not maybe here because I like to do those kind of things when there's a clear trend to the upside on a 50-minute chart. We can definitely not say it's far from being an uptrend on the 15-minute chart. So I don't like to take pending orders against the trend here. 169 EMA indeed. When I say 169, it's yeah, without the dot. 169. Okay, so basically the 144 and 169 kind of are it's kind of like a band as well, or perhaps like how would you classify it? Well, maybe the band is the best word. So it's also in a way a band, but then for the long term. And so the break here, I think could be good, but I'd rather wait for the break, a pullback, and look for the continuation here, right there. So I would say these are long ideas. Shorts are possible too. That's the cool thing with the Camarilla day. You can sometimes find multiple trades and ideas based on this one indicator and some long-term analysis. And shorts, I personally would be interested if it really reaches the L4 and gives a bit of a hook back roughly to the trend line, or the L3 down to L5. Same thing basically. So something like that. So this is a trade plan that I just discussed with you for myself for the next few hours, I would say, even maybe up to the end of London. And otherwise, after that, the market typically quiets down. So there's a lot of confluence here at these 3 points. So it's an extra confluence. It's an extra element that shows that we have an important breakpoint, I would say. When looking at the hourly chart, we can see the trend line a bit better. We have divergence on the hourly too. It's about a triple divergence. So I think that's quite a heavy, or at least a double. So it's quite a heavy one. 4-hour chart, you can see, let me get rid of this. No, 1 second. You can see that the oscillator here on the 4-hour chart is green. The bars are green. That means, it's below the zero line here, but it's retracing back. So there's a retracement going on. We had a strong downside here where the oscillator was red. The bars were red, bars were falling, obviously, and moving away from that zero line, showing momentum to the downside. Now it's retracing back up. Another reason why we could see that bounce. So I think there are good reasons to see upside today. And here 2 1-hour fractals indicating a resistance. Let me just check. Let's see. This is the 11th candle. For those that know my time factor rule, I therefore conclude that this particular downside is over. And let's see one more time. Let me count one more time. That in fact, any break of this low in the next 2 hours, I would consider I would not consider, sorry, unless it happens. Let me count again, 1 second. This is the 11th. So unless it happens 2 hours from now. Then I would consider this is just a time factor rule for myself. Perhaps that would be better explained in tomorrow's webinar in strategy because I don't want to mix too many things up. But a downside break I would only consider from 2 hours from now. Upside break could be considered, preferably actually we get it within the next 2-3 hours, I guess, but it's not as demanding as the downside. Yeah, you need 5 to 6 candles for momentum to continue, but momentum has clearly finished. For momentum, for this to turn out to be a correction, it has to be, according to my rule, at least 13 candles long. So it's a rule for correction, basically, not for momentum. So this was momentum, and with 5, 6 candles not breaking that bottom, it ended. Now it's actually 11 candles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is the 11th. So it's not yet a full-scale correction. So once it hits 13, I consider the correction to potentially be completed. It has enough kind of candles. The correction is long enough in a way to be considered a correction. Anything between kind of like 6 and 13, correction hasn't lasted long enough, and I consider it a false break. Great. So that's from a time factor perspective. So let's take a look at some other pairs, perhaps. I mean, I think we talked about this one long enough. We can still take a look at this throughout the next hour. Pound USD has a pretty neat little kind of resistance line here. I like that. And has a nice support line too. So it's a pretty interesting triangle. Good triangle. Sorry, folks, it seems like the connection is lost. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? Hello, testing 1, 2, 3. Sorry, folks. I seem to. I'm back. I hope. I quite annoyed. Hi, folks. Do you hear me? I guess you should hear me now. Yeah. Sorry about that. It happened last week too, and it's getting really annoying. And it's weird because it's a very high-speed internet connection, and I'm not sure why it's happening. But yeah, let's see. Hopefully, this is the last time. Otherwise, I'll have to see what to do. Yeah, so pound dollar basically good resistance and good support line. I like the triangle pattern here at the moment, and it offers, I think, some interesting potential for trading a breakout basically here, because trading a bounce trade, basically trading it away from the trend line to the opposite side instead of a break, has little sense because of the fact that the space between the support and resistance is almost non-existent at the moment. There's quite a little space. So from that point of view, a breakout would be needed. So this particular candle is not a fractal as yet, but on the lower time frame it could be. So let's zoom in right away to the lower time frame, not get bogged down too much maybe at looking at higher stuff here. seems that momentum is gathering at this point. Still below the H3 and still at the daily pivot point and still at the moving average. So I wouldn't take a long right now, but I think that it has potential for upside. Showing momentum, so I think it is coming any second or any minute, perhaps better said. If we look at this trend line, for instance, a hook back to it or after a break through it, move to the H3, move back to the pivot, and a break like that could warrant a pending order right here with the stop loss below L3 or below this low with a target right up in here. So any push, well, it doesn't have to be H3. Any push here that hits H3 goes halfway or H4 and gives a pullback. Same story basically to H5. Now a pending order might make a bit more sense than the euro dollar because the euro dollar is in a downtrend, the pound dollar isn't. So pending order, let me see, is a possibility above 156 because the H3 is 155.97, so 156.02. The stop loss would at the moment have to be below this HL3, pretty spacious at 45-ish, or at least below these bottoms at 55. But the target would be still about 1-to-1, a bit more than 1-to-1 because it's the H5 is the target. That would be a way. Wouldn't be anything wrong with it because compared to the euro dollar, as I said, the 4-hour chart, well, maybe not looking at the moving averages, but still, this is relatively a corrective zone of price action, and we had a decent momentum prior to that, to the upside. Plus, we clearly broke this resistance line. So all in all, this correction could easily be just a sideways move from our upside. So from that point of view, an upside break, seems good. So I therefore don't have necessarily any objections against the H3 pending. It's just that personally, I typically like the pullback a bit more. Also, it is still emerging from quite a choppy zone, which has a slight disadvantage for pending as well. It's more of a triangle here. I would like to see it, basically break through the 89. Personally, I'd rather see it break through the 89, or no, not 89. Sorry, this 144 and 169 EMA, and use it as and use then the 21 as support, because a breakthrough this 89 doesn't lead always to a good trade. As you can see here, actually, it in these cases just led to more downside. Right here, where I have the arrows. Although those three cases, of course, were a bit different than the current situation, I still personally rather wait for a clear break above it, a clear break and pull back and bounce. The candle rule, let's see. This is the 23rd candle. So from the 4-hour point of view, this correction has lasted long enough. We have momentum prior to it. So the breakout level from this 4-hour point of view is above here. That would justify above 156.25 would justify a swing trade to the upside with a stop loss below this bottom on the 4-hour chart. From a 1-hour point of view, let's see. We've had a lower low, so let's count the candles after the lower low. This is the 22nd. So it would justify a breakout to the downside too on the 1 hour chart, but it would have to break below this fractal here for a breakout to the downside. There is no momentum to the upside on the 1 hour chart. This one candle I wouldn't consider enough. I need to see a series of, at least three, preferably. One candle like that is not enough. So this is not momentum. So we don't have any upside momentum here at the moment. So it's either the 4 hour, I mean, from a time factor point of view, it's either a 4 hour break or a 1 hour break. A 4 hour break, if we look at the downside, I mean, there are a few downside candles, but they're so spread away. I mean, they're so much apart from each other that this is kind of like maybe how do you say it, a disputable case, because there are one, two, 2.5 good bearish candles here in this part right here. One could perhaps see it as a impulse. I don't personally. It's not entirely impossible. In that case, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the fifth candle, not breaking this bottom. So if it does push through this bottom, it could even be a 4 hour one as well. But so it's possible from both 1 hour and 4 hour to the downside. 1 hour, but I think 1 hour a bit better. 4 hour above here. Now, of course, a long above this 4 hour fractal is a very wide stop loss. So yeah, 156.35 could be an entry, but it requires a spacious stop loss. That might not be something that everyone likes. So from that point of view, it could be good to keep an eye on this chart to see if a earlier attempt is possible. Let's take a look at pound yen. Now I have the Camarilla, I have the moving averages on as well with Camarilla, because I like to see, when trading Camarilla, I like to see the momentum, the direction price is going to, or the average is going to. So I trade preferably a breakout with the momentum, or I trade a bounce against or with the moving averages, right? So let's take a look at the 30-minute chart here. Here I can quickly see that price is above all the moving averages, above the H3. So indeed, that seems to be interesting. Let's see. I think it's Pierre, indeed, that noticed this one. But Pierre is noticing the resistance. Let's see, which is true. From a 30-minute point of view, we are actually more in a breakout territory. But yet, very true that you want to be careful with trading that, and sometimes rather wait for a pullback and continuation, like I said also with the euro dollar, pound dollar, indeed. It could be a short as well, but typically a short like that is more often done at the H3. I mean, from a Camarilla point of view, it would be at the H3 typically. You could use the H4 as well, but then I would like to see a downtrend, and I don't see a downtrend at the moment. On the 4 hour chart, I see an uptrend. So if there's a strong trend and the price reaches the H4, L4 against the trend, if you follow my drift, that's okay. In this case, we are an uptrend, so I think, although we are at resistance from a Camarilla point of view, I would not look for shorts here. H3 is a different story perhaps, but H4, we're getting into breakout territory. So if anything, it seems like we can make a dip for more up. So I think this is one that's worth keeping an eye on. I would like to see, this is actually a bit further than the pound dollar. I would like to see price dip into here, show some sign like maybe a engulfing twin for upside. trend there is just a very, very brief start of this momentum, but we do see some signs of that. So keep an eye on this 50-minute chart and seeing how it's doing around this 193.60, 75, 70. Makes sense. I think for the next, I mean, if I use my own time factor rule here on the 5-minute chart, we should be, I want to see another five-minute candles, another 25 minutes. That brings me up to 940. Of course, it's not ironclad. It could break at any point, and it's not a 100% thing. Often enough, it is so, in my experience and my testing. So now that we've reached the 6th candle here, I would want to see 13 candles of a correction before trading it to the upside. So we can check it again in 9:40 my time, 8:40 London time. But a good one to keep an eye on for upside. If you're thinking about reversal trades, let's check it the 4-hour chart. This is candle number 12. So from that point of view, I agree with Pierre. It is on the early side. The correction has lasted pretty long, and it's almost finished. And so from that point of view, also from the point of view of yen, by the way, it lives less, it adapts itself less to that rule than others. So this is pretty corrective. This is pretty shallow after a pretty nice upside. There could be a breakout. I don't think looking for reversals, I don't see the signs that are needed for trading a reversal personally. I don't see many strong candles to the downside. I don't see any clear impulse here. We had one here maybe on the 1-hour chart, but 4-hour chart not so visible. I don't say it cannot happen, but it doesn't look that great. I think a break below L3 and this trend line though could change the perspective. $13 candles. Yes, and 144 and 169 EMA close indeed. Yes. So let's take a quick look at the dollar yen. It has been pushing a bit more than I expected. Still a bit doubtful about how far the dollar yen could push. So if this starts to retrace down, that will pull the pound yen a bit too. The pound looks like it's going to make a bullish break. So pound yen could maybe go sideways still if the dollar yen starts falling and the pound dollar starts rising. But the 78.6 fib here at 124.68 is close by. So I don't see a lot of space to the upside before resistance is met. And if anything, that could be worth a reversal trade at 78.6. AUD USD. Let's see. It's quite choppy at the moment. I would take a long if it breaks through this trend line. Let's see. I'm not sure if it's a pending order. Let me see. Pending order maybe, but it would have to be above this fractal at least, not above the trend line. Maybe somewhere up in here, maybe even above 74. Stop loss would have to be below this bottom. Now it has the same disadvantage that it would be a pending against the momentum against the trend. So I like the pendings with the momentum a bit more, obviously. But besides the fact that if it's a pending or not, keeping an eye on this break, pullback, and again continuation makes sense. If it, because of one more thing, by the way, it should really break actually above this 4-hour fractal. Otherwise, it's too risky. So pending, I think that's not a good idea. But ultimately, price did go up to retest this fractal here. Wait, and this one is important. 61.8 fib. It's difficult. It could just be a zigzag correction here. So upside might not have a lot, something to be careful of. I mean, there could be this breakout up to this target, these targets basically. But trading that is not as easy. I think waiting for some good 4-hour candle or 1-hour candle to push above it, wait for a bit of retracement is really the only way I can see. But it's something I think it's interesting. I think the pound dollar, of course, has more merit because that's in a triangle, and the audio is in a downtrend just like the euro dollar, and especially the euro dollar and audio is because of their downtrends. Got to be careful with the upside, and certainly there could even be downside trades available. Let me see how that would happen. Let's put on the Camarilla. Yeah, you can see that here the moving averages are more aligned to the downside. So a push through this fractal would be a breakout trade down to L5 at least. Seems a bit small, probably could even aim for a bit more than that. Not much space. Aussie is not really a big mover. Let me take a look at the heat map to see what kind of movements we are seeing. Let's see, otherwise, from a risk point of view, we have MPC meeting minutes tomorrow, just to finish that part. Let's see about the week, the rest of the week. Okay. Anyhow, looking at the heat map, you can find that by going to analytics, go to market heat map. It's very nice to take a look at the movement and volatility. And I don't think the audio is that high. Yeah, it's not high. That's today. Let's take a look at yesterday. Well, yeah, it's somewhere, definitely not one of the highest ones, right? It's somewhere in this crowd of, here it is. No movement and no change, I should say, and below average volatility probably, or about average. Aussie is the second, the third, tied for third. Not even that bad, actually. You can see New Zealand and pound are bigger movers, so let's take a look at that. Alrighty. The Kiwi is a bit in a tight spot because it has the 144 right below it, but it's right at the 21 below it, sorry, but 144 right at the 144. That could be. Hang on. Let's see. Well, we're in an upside momentum, but the break already happened here. That was a good break, but now that break already is behind us. So it seems like that trade has already happened. So there could be a reversal potential, if anything, I guess. Let's see. I would need to see 15-minute chart probably. Would like to see a failure here move up because it's going to make a bounce somewhere around here, move up and perhaps show some kind of inverted head, or no, not inverted, sorry, head and shoulders pattern. Somewhere in here, looking for a reversal short makes more sense than now because I don't, normally speaking, I mean, there are some exceptions, but normally speaking, the with the momentum, kind of with the trend, still gets a bounce here before you see that bigger fall. So yeah, Kiwi showing strength, but I don't think has much, left of that strength. I mean, it could still push, but the breakout trade was from here. Alrighty, dollar cat finally pushing through this trend line. Let's take a look at that break, that follow through, because a big candle, pretty big candle at least, with the close above that resistance, that could be interesting for today. I think so far, still the pound and pound yen probably the most interesting. Alrighty. This is one of those cases where any pullback to L3, L4, even L5 would be great for, I think, a long potential. There's definitely strong momentum to the upside. There are big, massive bars to the upside here. Big trend up, big daily close, big weekly close. Sorry, it's a weekly close. So any pullback, I think, could be very interesting. Let me put a fib on this weekly candle. We're seeing some smaller daily candles, indicating a bit of a loss of that momentum. So a bit of a pullback and continue makes sense. Let's see, this is the weekly fib. L5 is equal to 23.6. Other than that, other than a pullback, an upside trade doesn't make sense. Let me take a look. We have momentum here because we have a good candle here, a good candle here, and here. The bottom of that momentum is here, and the top is here. Okay, so let me see how many candles we've got so far. 18. Let's see, this fractal break didn't happen as yet, not by 10 pips. Let's see. Let me calculate quickly. All right, we got a small break here of this fractal, but it's not enough. So I think a pending order just above this candle high, really right here, which is probably a 50-minute fractal. Yeah, just a pending order of just above here, I think does make sense because this momentum right here would then probably get continuation. Stop loss would have to go below at least this bottom at the moment, unless this pushes even lower. That would be the alternative. So either a pullback, a deeper pullback, perhaps to L5, or a break above H3, I think. So that does seem interesting. But maybe other CADs look better. Maybe the pound CAD looks better because if the dollar is going to weak against the pound, then it would be better probably to look at the pound CAD again. However, if the euro dollar and Aussie do fall, then and the dollar does strengthen, then the dollar CAD makes sense to the upside. So from a time factor point of view, what I was calculating is basically how many candles we are from the top. So Jen, you had a question. It's actually 13 candles, including the momentum candles. I'm just looking at the, or not the momentum candles, but let me say it this way. Correction is counted from the top. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. And then here we've hit 13. So the correction is long enough for a breakout. Interest rates. Oh, it moved up. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, pullback makes sense too. Either that or the breakout. The breakout seems a bit maybe not so pleasant because of this zone. Ultimately, though, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We did still keeping pushing. We still keep pushing. Sorry, within my time factor rule. So it's still alive. Let's say it's a bit choppy though. But if it does pull back, then indeed any of these fibs could be a bouncing spot. And it doesn't have to go very deep necessarily. 23.6 could be really it. 38.2 fib to 50 just as likely. Maybe I wouldn't even expect much lower than 50 at the moment. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the breakout as far as I can see. If it does correct lower, probably even better to around this level, I think could be a good bounce trade. Now, whether price really rallies a lot from this level or just makes a recovery rally before it finds resistance to move down to the 38.2 fib, that's something that we can't tell right now. And we will never be able to tell because well, it's just looking too far ahead. We know that at that moment a bounce is likely, but how far? The only way we can judge that is by looking how it bounces when it bounces. If price does something like this, probably more upside is likely, right? Good bounce and shallow correction. If it does something like this, and then it's more looking corrective, and we can keep an eye on this break for 38.2 fib or this break for the rally. Not sure about the euro pound. It's in a downtrend, but looks like it's trying to push back below this 21 band. It looks like a bit more euro weakness than pound at the moment. Not trading it though. Euro yen myself. Not euro yen. Let's see. Well, not that interesting. But if it does push through this 4-hour fractal, it could be breaking kind of this channel to the downside. And it had a good momentum here, and it also clearly has a bottom still intact. So from that point of view, that could be a break pullback continuation. So this particular high could be important. I think a break above that, depending on above that, I think from a 4-hour perspective has makes sense with the stop loss below this bottom. Yeah. All right. So here odd. Let's see. Well, we have a clear. Actually, in this case, we have a clear downside momentum. No upside momentum on the 4-hour chart. Right here and here. And now we're having a consolidation. So quite the opposite. This support looks critical for further downside, but if it does push above the resistance, then that could be as well an interesting moment because of this trendline break too. And if it does break through the resistance, probably the target is 61.8, I would say. And this top. Eventually, perhaps even up to the 78.6 pip. If it does break through support, then it could fall to this target, maybe to this target. Let's zoom in. Well, I think it has a little sense to look at the 30-minute chart because it's just very choppy. Personally, I don't like to use, well, I mean, it's possible we can use it for bounce trades perhaps. Not breakout trades though. All right, so let's take a look where the bounce levels could be. H4, that made sense, just a bit too late, unfortunately. That happened more than an hour ago. Here it makes sense because we're in a range environment. So when in a range environment, looking for the reversal off of those levels has more merit. Let's see, would it make sense to look for L3? Let's take a look. L3 is kind of below that 4-hour fractal somehow. Probably not so much, but I mean, it could still be a bouncing spot here. But if it really pushes through L3, it's more of a breakout. As I said, it's a breakout territory. All right, so I have to wait down that. Let's see, pound odd. Perhaps a ascending wedge. Both the support and resistance important here for bounce and or break. Now it's getting back to the support. So let me add the Camarilla. Let me take a look if there's a bounce potential here. Well, maybe. I mean, so far we've seen a lot of bounces at the 144 EMA 6 times. Could do it again, but now the distance, yeah, the L3, it's quite some bit below it, 50 pips. I don't know. It doesn't look like a good buying area. Um, looks like some weaknesses in on the pound odd, and yeah, this does not look good for upside. Looks like divergence and no, looks like weakness if anything. Pound USD. Yeah, so it could happen. I mean, if pound does break through the support within, I mean, more than 2 hours from now, more than 1 hour and 20 minutes from now, after that, as far as I remember. No, sorry, I'm getting it confused. No, if it breaks this 1 hour fractal, that could be a breakout to the downside, in fact. So, yeah, maybe that we'll have to see if it makes that rally or not, or if it's going to actually push through support. That's both potential, possible. All right, let's see. Anything else? We've looked at a lot of pairs, so I have to organize my thoughts a bit here because kind of losing track which one I like the most. But dollar CAD, I remember dollar CAD. I think that has a good potential. Euro dollar isn't an important point really for break or bounce, so that's something to keep an eye on. But it is in a downtrend with divergence, so it is not a. It's kind of a bit more difficult because of those 2 points. Pound is nice because of clear support or resistance. Dollar yen not so nice. I think AUD USD could be similar to the euro, just a bit messier perhaps. Kiwi only a reversal perhaps makes sense here, but euro yen, that was a nice break indeed above this resistance. Oh yeah, the pound yen, it's 943. That means 3 minutes have passed. Pound is falling hard against the Aussie. So probably against the yen too. All right, here it is. I deleted it by accident, so it's all the way at the back. Well, obviously, if pound dollar breaks through support, then I would not be looking for upside on the pound yen either, or nor any pound pairs, in fact. And but then the pound dollar does look better for a short, I think, than the pound yen, just because it's still clearly above this, in my opinion, important support. There are good 50-minute wicks here, though. Pound yen is, I think, okay for upside if pound does move up. And if pound moves down, I think pound dollar or pound, let's see, pound odd. Perhaps no, that was a reversal too. Let me see, pound New Zealand. Pound New Zealand probably makes more sense. No, it too is at the long-term band. Let me think for a second. Probably pound dollar, maybe even. Your odd, clear support or resistance, not too bad too, but waiting for that. All right, that was a mini summary or half a summary there. So let's take a look at, oh, I wanted to look at one thing on the pound yen. I forgot. 1 second. Yeah, I wanted 13 candles before the breakout, right? Yeah. So now we have it. This is the candle number 13. We're getting this consolidation zone. On a 50-minute chart, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth candle. So if the breakout were to happen, it should happen in the next 30 to 45 minutes. Otherwise, the 50-minute chart is too late. 15-minute breakout is above this fractal. The 5-minute breakout is above this one. There is a risk that if 5-minute breakout happens, that the 50-minute doesn't. Looking at the 50-minute chart is not too inspiring for long as yet because we see 4 big wicks. Unless this is a very good 15-minute candle that shows very strong bullishness, I don't think it's really ready. But from a time factor point of view, the 5-minute is ready, and as soon as this fractal breaks, it would be an entry on the 5. On the 15, it would be an entry above the top here. Within the next 2-3 candles, 30 to 45 minutes. From a Camarilla and moving average point of view, it's kind of like hooking back to support, but has resistance indeed right here. So a break above 194 could be the most, in a way, most safe, or let it break the support for this reversal trade. So anyhow, those are just some ideas to get, basically give you an idea about how you can piece together time fractal on multiple time frames. So let's take a look at gold and AUD New Zealand. And then there's some questions I see. Let's see. Let's first take a look at gold. Yeah, gold falling a lot. Monday, Friday was down. Monday even bigger. A whacking $70 downside after a whole series of smaller candles. Of course, a lot of how do you say, the fireworks on that one day compared to slower weeks before that. So from that point of view, we are in momentum to the downside, no doubt about it. We hit the 50 fib of the swing high when counting from 1999, 2000 up to 2011. That could provide a bounce, and then we'll have to see. It is in a downtrend, so resistance could easily kick in again and push it to the 61.8. Again, a bounce, maybe even lower. Who knows? Maybe not. Maybe the 61.8 or the 50 fib will be bigger bouncing spots. It's possible. We'll have to see which one wins at the moment. Definitely on a daily chart, there's bearish momentum, and on a monthly chart, there's potential support. So as it makes a recovery rally, or makes some bounce here, as it already has actually, we're going to have to see how it corrects. This is the 7th candle. So this momentum to the downside, according to my rule, is over, and we have another 6 candles that at least that we can stay here as a correction, or will we perhaps even make an upside with a bit more spunk. So downside seems off the table, for the moment, just because it seems like we're in a corrective zone now. But let's see, upside does not seem that attractive either to me. I will basically wait and see how this corrects. Just waiting for more info. Let's take a look at some questions. New Zealand dollar, we can take a look at that. AUD New Zealand 2. AUD New Zealand seems to have completed a 5-wave down. Let's see. Yeah, indeed. Alrighty, let's see. Yeah, I think a bounce up makes sense. We are back at support. The long-term moving average finished 5 waves. An early signal could be a pin bar like this. 4-hour pin bar could be a good way to trade it. Entry, stop loss below it. Entry upon the close has to be bullish. I would preferably see a bullish candle here. Stop loss below the close. Below the low, sorry. Yeah, there could be a zigzag rally up. Agree. Makes sense. Maybe the first rally can go up to here. This resistance, we'll see a pullback, and I'll see another rally maybe up to here, and then maybe a bigger turn due to the fact that there are 5 waves here indeed. Yeah, good observation. I like it. Makes sense. Good analysis. That's from Wei. And New Zealand dollar. Reversal soon. Yeah, I was thinking about that the Kiwi could make that. But I want a bit more proof because the thing is that at the moment it did hit the H4 and it did hook back to the moving average. Could easily be a bouncing spot as well. Still, from that point of view, didn't think about it the first time I looked at it, but that I was just looking at the fact that this is the breakout right here. But actually, it could be seen as that as well from here. So want to be careful with that. I think using my time fracture, this is only the third candle. So I'd still give it a candle 2 or 3 if it. Let's see if it shows if it retraces and then shows a good strong candle on next 1, 2 candles, 3 candles, could still be continuation. If it shows weakness and doesn't break this top within 6, then maybe we'll get a bit bigger retracement. Another way to do it could be just to look at the 4-hour chart and keep an eye on this 4-hour candle. If it's a big pin bar, that could be worth a short. Hourlies are riskier. A pin bar on the hourly might not mean that much. Okay, so let me know if you have any follow-up questions. Otherwise, in the meantime, let me tell you that this week we have still, let's see, 3 webinars left. We have tomorrow, the same time, same place, we got strategy. Wednesday evening, then is going to take a look at expert opinion, and Thursday evening, then and I are going to take a look at, I think it's confidence in trading, in your trading, if I remember correctly. Somehow this is not working at the moment. Anyhow, in the meantime, seems to be working on my other screen, but not on this screen. Okay, there it is. Don't forget to take a look at the MetaTrader 4. Okay, MetaTrader 4 Supreme Edition. There are 56 additional features to take your trading to the next level, as I write here, and just click on this button to find out more. Now, one of those things that you will notice is correlation matrix, for instance. And we can take a look at some of the pairs that we've talked about today. So for instance, if I were to trade the pound dollar, and then there is little correlation with the dollar Swissy. Oh, that's the euro dollar, sorry. Pound dollar, little correlation with the dollar yen and the Kiwi and the dollar Swiss. So those could be good, perhaps additional trades. Of course, always keep an eye on your risk management if taking multiple trades or taking any trade for that matter. But that's something you can kind of keep an eye on, not to over risk, perhaps over risk in one direction. Correlation matrix is one of those things that is available. So let's see. Pierre saying euro yen is breaking H3. This is the 7th candle, so it could right here from this bottom, which means that this downside is perhaps indeed over. This is the 6th, was still bearish, so I still need to wait for this one. Maybe recount. Maybe it's not true. 1 second. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 was bearish. So this candle is, if this is bullish, the reversal or correction is probably starting, going down to the Camarilla level. Yeah, about to push through. That could be a even earlier signal. That could be the first thing that breaks. Then the 4-hour candle could post bullish, and those could be the first signals that we might make the recovery. I mean, make the rally here that breaks through this fractal and this trend line. And ultimately, we could see once that happens, this momentum follow through. Maybe not as well. What would be the target? Maybe I wouldn't aim for too much here. Probably around here. Max probably around here. All right. Let's see. Derek is saying 66.20. Sell limit at 66.20. Yeah, makes sense. I got a minus 272 target at 66.27. So that's very close. So that's about the same level. A target like that, if it breaks, if it gets there, could certainly be a turning spot. The candle of yesterday that closed for cable, was it bearish or bullish? I have small bearish candle. For Camarilla and Fib to get to the point of Confluence, when should I draw the Fib? Well, I think 1 hour or 15 and 15 both make sense. I didn't really think about it. I never really thought about it that much, but 1 hour and 15 makes sense. I think if you want to look for Confluence, I mean, to me, I just use Fibs in a discretionary way, and I use the time frame where it makes most sense to me. That and how that, what makes most sense to me depends on where there's a trend, where there's a clear momentum. So I don't really have anything, that I use that is a very fixed for that particular question. But if if you're looking for something that uh, matches, then I would say 1 hour 15. If cable does bounce today, then indeed, well, not really so, because the 38.2 fib is, it could retrace deeper. The 38.2 fib is shallow. And if it hits the 272 target, it could actually still retrace back to 50 before moving up more. It could do something like this. So I wouldn't say it's totally out of the question. Now, the deeper it goes, the more likely price will continue. From a 61.8 fib, once it hits the minus 272 target, you don't see it go down to the 78.6 that often before going up like that. Sometimes happens, but becomes a bit less frequent. Any other questions that might not be clear? I think that, I mean, this is what I have in mind for the next few hours. That's a good 1 hour bar on the Kiwi, but still a bit early probably for me. Still want to wait within this hour a bit for at least a couple of candles that don't break this high. That's a reversal kind of idea. Aussie actually, same thing, either reversal or break. It's a bit difficult spot. It could still continue with the trend to the downside, but easily make that break as we talked about with the euro dollar too, as it bounces off 108. So it's just at the beginning, kind of like, if it does make this rally to the upside, then it's quite fresh. It's just would have to prove itself for the very first time. Those are always a bit more difficult. Oh, it just moved up a bit. So with that candle, let's see how this candle closes. 30 minutes. If it does close good this hourly, that could be first signal of the change of gears here, the change of trend that we talked about already. And the pound is already also following. And in the meantime, could be warranted already. There is a fractal at the H3 in the meantime. So a breakout trade, in fact, above 155.82, maybe about 88, could be possible. Now the 1 hour candles are not looking that fantastic. So waiting for this 1 hour to have a good close and wait for a pullback could equally be, maybe a tad more conservative. Well, it is more conservative, but maybe a tad better approach. But it is nothing wrong, I think, necessarily with the 50-minute break, especially if you just keep an eye on the 50-minute candles, as long as the time factor rule or the momentum rule where, candles keep pushing to higher highs is proving itself. And this could keep nicely moving. And it looks like we're going to get that dollar weakness rally here. So the Kiwi short reversal, that's off the table if this dollar indeed pushes like it is pushing with the, seems like it is. So dollar CAD will not make the break to the upside probably, and probably will make the retracement down to the 23.6. Kiwi will not make the reversal, but could continue. And Aussie, Euro probably make a reversal, and pound will probably get his breakout, I would say, just based on what we're seeing now. Euro yen probably will have that chance of breakout too, but maybe the Euro yen and pound yen will not move that much because the yen could correct a bit here, the dollar yen. In any case, it seems like both of them are bouncing as well to the upside. Pound odd, I would be cautious with the pound odd at the moment. I would not trade it to the upside, probably not to the downside either, unless it really is able to, I don't know, close. I don't know. I would not take a pending order. I would keep an eye on it. And we could talk about it tomorrow probably again, because at this moment it doesn't look set up well for either. Maybe if it does push through with a good candle close like this below, might make a hook back and fall down to the long-term moving average. I think it's too soon to tell though. Definitely down an uptrend, sorry, but big consolidation zone. So from that point of view, let's see, if this becomes a fractal, I would use that as the measure point for upside. For downside, probably we have to break at least below this support here. 210, 21030, 2120. All right, folks. Well, wish you happy hunting. If you have doubts about the pound, you can always keep an eye on this hourly candle or 4-hour candle for that matter. It's all very early, so keep that in mind. So thanks again for your comments and for being here, and hope that I can see you in tomorrow's webinar. Which I don't have anymore. Anyhow, you know where to find the webinar tomorrow at the same time, same place. Thanks again for joining, and talk to you soon. Cheers.